They won't let me go, I love you. There's a key in the blue flower pot outside the door. That was the last text message Amanda Bearden, a 36-year-old woman living in Athens, Georgia, received from her mother, Debbie Collier, at 3:17 p.m., September 10, 2022. And that was the last time she heard from her mother. Just 22 hours later, Debbie's body was found at the bottom of a ravine near Tallulah Falls, nearly 60 miles from home. Partially naked, burned, still clutching a small tree trunk. We're not talking about an accident, not a natural death. This is a tragedy orchestrated by invisible hands where not only the dead are the victims, but the entire living family is pushed into hell with her. Around 3 p.m., a security camera at a family dollar store in the small town of Clayton, Georgia, captured Debbie, wearing a red Georgia Bulldogs football jersey and shorts, looking neat and alert, entering the store. She purchased a red shopping bag, a blue tarp, a lighter, and a disposable raincoat. About 15 minutes later, she left the store, climbed into a rented black Chrysler Pacifica minivan, and disappeared. The camera captured Debbie sitting in the car for about 10 minutes, during which time she sent a Venmo message with a farewell message to her daughter. Amanda received $2,385 and the following sentence: "They won't let me go." Let's pause here for a moment. Who were they? Why did Debbie send the money right before she died? Why did a woman with no history of depression, no mental illness, suddenly set herself on fire in the woods after transferring money to her daughter? Or is there something else to the story that we don't know? At 6 p.m. that night, Steve Collier, Debbie's husband, called 911. His voice was worried but restrained. "I don't know where my wife is. Her rental car is gone. Her papers, wallet, driver's license are still at home. Amanda, my daughter, got a strange text message. They won't let me go," something like that. He emphasized, Debbie was not mentally ill, not on medication, had no reason to leave. A 59-year-old woman, stable, taking care of the house, just celebrated her birthday last week, suddenly disappeared, transferred money, said goodbye, and disappeared. The police recorded the incident, but at that time no one realized that this investigation would tear a family apart. The next morning, Amanda, still unable to sit still, called the police repeatedly. She was confused, frantic, her voice choked up. "I don't want to bother you, I just want to find my mom. I have the rental car, I can track the GPS. I don't know what else I can do." You could feel the fear in her every breath. Can a child who receives a final text from her mother, then loses contact with her completely, can she calm down? But then things got strange. When asked about her mother's wallet, Amanda insisted Debbie's wallet and cards were still at home. However, when police found Debbie's body the next day, the wallet and phone were found right next to her. What does that mean? Someone was lying. Thanks to the SiriusXM signal from the rental car, the police located the coordinates, a desolate stretch of Route 15, near the Tallulah Falls mountain area. When the police arrived, they found the minivan open, empty, and empty. Amanda was called to the scene and she screamed when she saw her mother's car, but Debbie wasn't in the car, so where had she gone? The K9 unit was called in. And then, amid the damp brush and trees, they discovered a red bag lying on its side next to an uprooted tree. Traces of a small fire, a charred blue tarp, and finally a female body, charred at the stomach, lying on its back, clutching a tree trunk. At this point, the police began to ask questions. Why did Debbie buy the same items found at the scene of her death? Why did she go to Clayton, a place nearly 60 miles from home, when there was a convenience store less than a mile away? Why did Amanda's account of her wallet and phone not match? And why did she send money and a goodbye note via Venmo before she died? The answers seem to lie not in the woods, but in Debbie's own family. This is not just a suicide. This is a tragedy, a maze where every answer leads to a locked door. In the next part, we will peel back the layers of Debbie Collier's past, find out who was the last person to see her alive, her broken relationships, and whether the killer was someone closest to her. Have you ever imagined that, on a normal day, the house you still live in peacefully will suddenly become the center of the whole country? A peaceful countryside where everyone knows each other, neighbors still stop by to give each other cakes on the weekend, now has become the scene of a national tragedy. That is the story in Athens, Georgia, where Debbie Collier used to live. Debbie Collier, 59, is a typical American wife and mother. She lives with her husband, Steve Collier, 67, in a small, quiet house on Rocky Drive, Athens. They have been married for more than 9 years, each with children. Debbie has 2 children. Amanda Bearden, 36, who received her mother's last text message. Jeffrey Bearden, 33, lives in Maryland. Steve also has 2 children and 2 grandchildren. Every weekend, the family gathers for dinner, talks, a life that seems carefree. Here, people don't lock their doors, kids ride their bikes in the middle of the street, and if a stranger walks by, you're asked, "Who are you looking for?" But everything has changed. Forever. Saturday, September 10, 2022 started like any other weekend. Steve woke up early, ready to go to the parking lot of the University of Georgia, where he worked temporarily during a football game. He remembers clearly that when he left, Debbie was still asleep. Her rental car was still parked in the yard. It was a black Chrysler Pacifica, which Debbie rented from Enterprise because her personal car was being repaired. A minor accident with a truck that dropped a paint can and damaged the front end. Steve left the house before 9 a.m., worked until 4 p.m. and returned home. But when he returned, Debbie and the rental car were gone. He didn't suspect anything. He thought she had simply gone out to get some groceries as usual. Until Amanda Bearden knocked on the door. Amanda told Steve that she had just received a strange Venmo message. Debbie had sent $2,385 with the message, "They won't let me go. There's a key in the blue flower pot by the door. I love you." Just reading it was enough to give you goosebumps, but at the time, it was all just vague anxiety. Amanda ran up to her mother's room, checked her wallet, credit cards, ID, everything was intact. Only the phone and the car were gone. Steve immediately called 911. The police came to the house. They didn't immediately consider it a crime, because as the police officer told Amanda, she's an adult. Adults can go wherever they want. A seemingly true statement, but now it was like a knife cutting into the hearts of her loved ones. That night, Amanda did not sleep. She called the Athens police again and again. Her voice was panicked and choked. "I have the rental contract number. They can track the GPS. I don't know what else to do. Should I hire a private investigator?" The police have not yet confirmed this as a missing persons concern. On Sunday morning, about 36 hours after Debbie disappeared, a SiriusXM radio employee, the company that connects vehicles to the service, called the police. They had just located the minivan's coordinates. A deserted road near Tallulah Falls, about 60 miles from Athens. The police immediately deployed a search party. When the police cars arrived, a chill ran down their spines. The minivan was open, sitting silently in the woods. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, no Debbie. As soon as Amanda arrived on the scene, she yelled, "That's my mom's car." The canine unit immediately spread out, and then, under an uprooted tree, they found a red bag matching the one Debbie had bought the day before. A small fire that had just died down. A scorched blue tarp. And the charred body of a woman lying on her back, her stomach burned, her hands still clutching the small stump. It was Debbie Collier. She was naked, surrounded by items she had bought herself at the Family Dollar in Clayton, a store just a few minutes' drive from the scene. The police were starting to panic. In her initial report, Amanda had said her mother's wallet and papers were at home, but at the scene, the police had collected the wallet, Debbie's phone, all the credit cards. So what was going on? Did someone move the wallet after Amanda checked? Or was it never there like Amanda had said? To the police, this was no longer a missing persons case. This was a targeted murder. And suspicions began to surround the last person who had contact with Debbie, Amanda Bearden. Amanda's past soon began to surface. She had lived near her brother Jeffrey in Maryland, but had returned to Georgia just 2 days before her mother's disappearance. Amanda and her boyfriend, Andrew Jagerich, had a history of domestic violence, with police intervening several times. Andrew had accused Amanda of drug abuse, theft, and disorderly conduct. Amanda had also been arrested for false reporting, battery, and drug test fraud. All of which led the community to ask, was the last transfer a bribe? Or was Debbie forced to do it? In the middle of this seemingly peaceful countryside, something had been rotten inside for a long time, and now, the truth was just ashes waiting to be blown away by the wind. The camera footage that doesn't match, the screams of the final night, the lies that can't be hidden forever, and who the real killer is. Do you remember Debbie's last words? They won't let me go. There's a key in the blue flower pot. I love you. A strange text message. A cash payment via Venmo, a burned body in the woods, but the scariest thing is Debbie's death. It's the lies that begin to come out. And the liars are the ones who love her the most. Amanda Bearden, the daughter who just lost her mother, is becoming the center of suspicion for the whole country. Because when you're the last person to talk to the victim, when you're the one who received $2,385, just minutes before her death. When you've been arrested for beating your boyfriend, drug fraud, filing a false police report, everyone looks at you as the culprit. And what's more, locals began to tell forgotten secrets. A neighbor who lived next door to Debbie told the media, the night before she disappeared, there was a loud argument coming from the house. That's not unusual, but this time I heard a young woman screaming. The neighbor added, there was a young woman who came over on the weekends. They were arguing loudly. The door was closed, but the voice echoed through the night. No one could confirm that it was Amanda, but the timing and circumstances matched. On September 10, a Family Dollar in Clayton caught a woman wearing a red shirt, red pants, and a crossbody bag walking in. Time of recording, 2:54 p.m. right before Debbie sent the Venmo. She bought blue tarp, red bag, lighter, raincoat. All were found next to the body. But there was one thing Debbie's son, Jeffrey Bearden, couldn't accept. The person in that video doesn't look like my mom. The posture, the way she walked, it's not her. He suspected the video was staged or faked, or someone had disguised themselves as Debbie to buy the items. The day after Debbie's body was discovered, a Fox News reporter walked around the crime scene and found something surprising: an unfired bullet lying about 20 meters away from the scene. They turned it over to the police. But since then, no investigative report has mentioned it. The question is, where did that bullet come from? Did someone bring a gun but not have time to use it? Or did the police deliberately ignore it? Skepticism in the community began to skyrocket. Do you remember Amanda told the police clearly, "My mom's wallet is in the room. She didn't have any papers, cards with her." But when the police arrived at the scene, they found the wallet next to Debbie's body. It still had papers, credit cards, a phone. So what really happened? 1. Amanda lied. 2. Someone took the purse home from the crime scene and then returned to set it up. 3. Or were the police mistaken from the start? 1 mismatch might be an oversight, 2 details are odd. But 3, 4, 5, that was a plan. After an hours-long interrogation, where Amanda was blamed to her face as the murderer by investigators, she volunteered to provide a DNA sample. So did her boyfriend, Andrew Jagerich. Amanda shared, "I don't need a lawyer. I want to prove my innocence. My mother was murdered and I want justice for her." At that moment, the community was divided into 2 halves. One half believed Amanda was a victim just wrongly accused. The other half believed she knew more than she said. 6 weeks later, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation (GBI) issued an official press release. Based on the evidence at the scene, the records, the forensic examination, and the medical examiner, it is determined. Debbie Collier's death was a suicide. Causes: inhalation of hot gases, thermal burns, hydrocodone intoxication, a powerful painkiller. This conclusion was a slap in the face to everyone following the case, because no one believed. A 59-year-old woman with no history of depression set herself on fire in the woods, sending money to her daughter beforehand and texting, "They won't let me go." Jeffrey Bearden, Debbie's son, disagrees. He posted a lengthy Facebook post about his hostile phone call with the Habersham County Sheriff. Jeffrey wrote, "I was laughed at. I just wanted to know the progress of the investigation. Instead, they laughed at me, citing staff shortages. I have no faith in justice." In a video shared later, Jeffrey made it clear, "I will not stop. I will find the person who killed my mother. Prisoner or death row, I don't care." If Debbie committed suicide, why did she buy a tarp, a bag, a raincoat, a lighter? Why did she send money to her daughter? Why did she text, "They won't let me go"? Who are they? If Debbie was murdered, why was there no sign of a struggle? Why did she buy the items at the store near the scene? Why did the cameras show her looking calm? Behind the Debbie Collier case is a web of conflict, secrets, and things no one dares to say. Someone knows the truth. And that person is still at large. A verdict, a press release, a suicide death, and that's it. No arrests, no prosecution, no one standing in court saying, "I'm guilty." Well, it's just a mother lying on the cold ground and a family broken beyond repair. With the state's Bureau of Investigation's suicide verdict, there was no trial, no charges, no defendants. Why? There was no evidence of a third party being involved. No physical signs of a struggle. There were no injuries other than burns. That's what the autopsy report said. But to Debbie's family, especially her son Jeffrey, it all made no sense. "My mom would never do that. She didn't overdose on painkillers. She was afraid of fire. And she loved life. She loved her family," Jeffrey wrote in an emotional post. He said, "Debbie had just bought movie tickets with friends next week. She had just planned to celebrate her 60th birthday. And she had no history of depression, anxiety, or disorientation." Steve Collier, Debbie's husband of nearly a decade, has spoken to the public. He has disappeared from the media, locked all his accounts, and cut off contact with journalists. He is said to still live in Athens, but no one has actually seen him outside of his neighbors. Amanda Bearden, the prime suspect, was cleared after providing DNA and completing interviews. She said, "I didn't kill my mother, I love her. If I were asked 1,000 times, I would still say the same thing." Police confirmed that Amanda is no longer a suspect. She was given back the $2,385 Debbie had sent her. She moved out of the house, not saying where she was going. But one thing stuck out in many people's minds. Why did the last text say, "They won't let you go"? Who were they? Why was Amanda the only one to receive the Venmo? And why was she near the scene when police found the car? Her son, Jeffrey Bearden, was the only one to speak up for his mother. Not only did he publicly confront the police, he also called for an independent investigation, asked the FBI to get involved, and denounced the lack of transparency in the handling of the case. "I don't need anyone to go to jail to feel better," he said. "I just want to know what happened to my mother, who was the last person to see her alive." Jeffrey admitted that he no longer speaks to Amanda. He no longer considers her family, and since losing his mother, he has not been himself. In Athens, where Debbie lives, a small garden was built outside the city library. A small sign reads, "In loving memory of Debbie Collier, a kind heart, a tragic end." No one cut the ribbon. There was no formal ceremony. Just a few friends, a few neighbors, quietly planting flowers, erecting a stone statue, and leaving the words, "Oh, you deserved better. Oh, she deserved better." What does the Debbie Collier case teach us? One, investigations don't always lead to justice. 2. The truth is sometimes not what is found, it's what is hidden. 3. We should be suspicious, even of those closest to us. If you hear someone say, "They won't let me go," don't ignore it. If someone disappears and the trail is too neat, don't believe in suicide so easily. Remember the opening lines. Debbie Collier texted, "They won't let me go, I love you," and then silence. To this day, the questions remain. Who were they? How did mom really die? And if it was your mother, your sister, your wife, would you accept the answer as suicide when all the evidence says otherwise? Ask yourself this. If you were Debbie, would you believe that justice would come? This is the case of Debbie Collier. A mother gone in silence, a final message left unsaid, a family torn apart, and a truth that has never been revealed. What do you think, suicide or murder in disguise? Leave a comment. And if you think this story needs... There are some crimes that feel like they could only come out of a twisted screenplay, where love turns into obsession and the people you trust most become your worst threat. This case. It has everything: 3 relationships, 2 divorces, 4 people, and 1 life sentence. And at the heart of it, a veterinarian, a charming doctor, a hitman with a conscience, and a plot that would make even seasoned detectives shake their heads. This is the true story of Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel, and how a murder-for-hire plot spiraled into betrayal, surveillance, and tragedy. Valerie McDaniel was one of those people everyone seemed to love. Smart, successful, and deeply passionate about animals. A straight-A student, valedictorian, and eventually, a veterinarian who built her own clinic from the ground up. Her life on paper looked perfect: wealthy background, nice cars, fancy wine, and a loving family. And like many fairy tales, it started with a promising romance. She met Marion Mac McDaniel while studying. They clicked instantly, both intelligent, ambitious, and driven. They married, started a business together, and from the outside, everything seemed idyllic. But behind that polished exterior, reality slowly began to fray. Owning a business is stressful, and the strain started to show in their relationship. The long hours took a toll. They rarely spent quality time together. And when they tried to start a family, the heartbreak of infertility added another layer of stress. In 2008, they adopted a daughter, hoping it would bring them closer. But that's not how it went. Shortly after, Valerie got a call from a stranger. A woman claimed she'd been sleeping with Mac, and he wasn't just cheating with her. She rattled off a list of names. Valerie was devastated. Mac admitted to everything. And in a surprising turn, Valerie gave him another chance, but trust, once broken, rarely heals. And it didn't take long before Mac was cheating again. Still, Valerie stayed, not because she didn't know better, but because she loved her daughter and didn't want to risk shared custody. Eventually, though, she emotionally checked out. The marriage, by her own admission, became a formality. And that's when he entered the picture. Leon Jacob, the son of a neighbor, a man who oozed confidence, flaunted his looks, and as Valerie would later say, thought he looked like Bradley Cooper. And you know what? Maybe he kind of did. Bright eyes, dark wavy hair, a doctor, 8 years younger than Valerie, and charming as hell. She said she didn't want to be a divorced woman, but the combination of Mac's infidelity and Leon's attention changed everything. By the end of 2014, she filed for divorce. By 2016, she was free. Valerie moved out with her daughter into a luxury apartment. She felt like she had a fresh start. Leon moved in not long after. Friends said she was glowing, happier than she'd been in years, but Mac, her ex, was worried. And his concern, it wasn't jealousy, it was about Leon. Mac described him as too slick, too confident, too unknown to be around his daughter. And he wasn't wrong to worry, because Leon Jacob had a past. Born in New Jersey, Leon's life had its share of twists. After his father died, he eventually moved to Houston and later studied medicine in the Caribbean. He graduated in 2005, but what followed wasn't exactly a noble medical career. He bounced from residency to residency, 7 in total, and he was booted from nearly all of them, either for lying about his experience or simply lacking basic skills. His arrogance made things worse. He didn't take instruction well, he thought he was better than everyone else, and it wasn't just professional issues. Leon had been married once before too, two sons, 12 years of marriage. But his ex-wife described their relationship as a nightmare, full of emotional abuse and control. After their divorce, Leon was charged with stalking her. He claimed he just wanted to talk to his kids. But the relentless calls and threats told a different story. Then came Megan Vericas. They met at a hotel she worked at, started dating, and soon moved in together. Megan thought she'd found someone solid, good-looking, ambitious, and sweet. But once they moved to Houston, Leon's mask slipped. It began with verbal abuse, then physical. Megan said he hit her repeatedly, suffocated her once with his hand over her mouth. Terrified, she kicked him out. And just like before, Leon retaliated. Calls, threats, harassment, only this time Megan went to the police. In early 2017, Leon was charged with assault and stalking. And this right here is where the story takes its darkest turn. Leon knew that if Megan testified, his career would be over. No medical license, no future, and he couldn't let that happen, so he made a decision. He was going to make sure Megan never made it to the courtroom. So by early 2017, Leon Jacob was cornered. His ex-girlfriend Megan Vericas had filed charges against him for assault and stalking, and his trial was coming up fast. His lawyer told him point-blank, if Megan testified, it was game over. He could lose his medical license permanently. His reputation, already shaky, would be toast. And that's when Leon decided he had one option left. Make sure Megan never took the stand, so he reached out to a guy he knew, someone he thought could make his problem disappear. A man he believed was capable of murder, but the irony here, the hitman Leon hired wasn't a killer at all. His name was Taz, a former soldier with no interest in violence anymore. Leon knew him only as Zach, a name Taz made up on the spot. And what Leon didn't know was that Taz had no intention of hurting anyone. Instead, when Leon laid out his murderous plan, Taz made a very different decision. He decided to save a life, not take one. Leon had it all mapped out. He didn't just want Megan scared. He wanted her gone one way or another. And the plan, it had 3 stages. Stage 1, scare Megan into getting back together with him. Stage 2, if that didn't work, scare her enough to leave town and not testify. 3. Stage 3, and if that failed, murder. Leon paid Taz $9,000 to kill her. But Taz, being ex-military and a man with a conscience, took the money and went straight to the authorities. He told them everything. What Megan didn't know yet was that her life had been hanging by a thread, and that her ex-boyfriend was willing to end it for his own career. With Taz's help, police formed a plan. They asked him to keep playing the role, keep recording conversations, keep Leon talking. If they were going to make a case, they needed Leon caught red-handed. And that's exactly what happened next. Taz, under police supervision, called Leon and said he wasn't the right man for the job, but he knew someone who was, a guy named Javier. Leon took the bait, and what he didn't realize was that Javier was actually an undercover police officer. Now here's where things go from disturbing to downright surreal. Leon didn't just want Megan taken care of anymore. On the call, he casually added that he had another problem too, Valerie's ex-husband Mac. He wanted Mac dead as well. And according to Leon, Valerie was totally on board. Think about that. 2 successful professionals, a doctor and a veterinarian, were now plotting to kill their exes, as if it were just an inconvenience to be solved with money and a fake robbery. Soon after, Leon and Valerie met with Javier and Taz at an Olive Garden to talk murder, over soup and breadsticks. This is not a joke. During the conversation, Leon made it clear he didn't care how it got done. If Megan wouldn't leave town, you've got to do what you've got to do. As for Mac, Valerie was the one who spoke up. She said she wanted him shot in the head during a fake carjacking, just make it look like a robbery gone wrong. She even said, I for sure want to go through with this. I don't have any other option. That ex-husband of mine is threatening to take away my daughter and I won't stand for it. No hesitation, no fear. Just cold, deliberate planning. But what Leon and Valerie didn't know was that every word was being recorded, and every step was being watched. On March 9, 2017, undercover officer Javier showed up at Leon and Valerie's apartment. In his hand, photos of Valerie's ex-husband Mac, bloody, slumped over in his car, lying face down on the pavement. It was all fake, of course. The blood from a pig. Mac had already agreed to help police the moment he found out his ex-wife had put a hit out on him. But the photos worked. Valerie and Leon believed Mac was dead. One problem solved. That same night they received more photos, this time of Megan. Bound, gagged, terrified, the fear in her eyes was real. She had a panic attack during the staging, but she was alive, and she was also working with police. Now the trap was set. Early the next morning, 3 a.m. to be exact, police knocked on the couple's apartment door. They told Valerie that Mac had been found shot to death. She didn't react, not a gasp, not a tear, not even surprise, just a strange, flat stillness that made the officers take notice. Then Leon walked in. They told him the same thing. He awkwardly reached over to comfort Valerie and tried to look shocked. But then he made a classic mistake, one that gave the whole game away. He said, "We've been here all day watching movies." No one had asked him for an alibi. And just like that, the act crumbled. Police dropped the bomb. Mac and Megan were very much alive. They had staged everything. The photos, the texts, the meetups, every part of the murder plot had been recorded. Valerie was arrested. As she left her apartment in handcuffs, who was standing outside waiting, her ex-husband Mac, the man she had tried to kill, he was there to take custody of their daughter. Leon, already facing charges for stalking and assault, was denied bail. Valerie, on the other hand, was released. But she had nowhere to hide. The press camped outside her apartment. Her vet license was suspended. She had lost her daughter. Her clinic, her future. She recorded a heartbreaking video diary on her iPad saying, "My home is like a prison. I have nobody, not even my daughter, to comfort me." And not long after that, Valerie said one final goodbye. By the time March 2017 came to an end, Valerie McDaniel was gone. Just days after her arrest, surrounded by cameras and reporters, unable to work, and completely cut off from her daughter, she climbed to the 7th floor of her high-rise apartment building and jumped. She left behind a community in shock. Her friends, her clients at the vet clinic, and even her neighbors couldn't believe it. This was a woman described as warm, intelligent, and kind, someone who loved animals, who had built a life for herself from the ground up. And yet, when faced with the consequences of her actions, she chose death over prison. Some say it was guilt. Others say it was fear. But many, especially those who knew her personally, believed that Leon Jacob had manipulated her into doing something completely out of character. That she wasn't evil, just broken, but that's something we'll never fully know. Meanwhile, Leon Jacob sat in jail waiting for his day in court, his behavior behind bars as arrogant and deluded as ever. In an interview, Leon actually said, "Prison isn't that bad, I was wrongly convicted. Valerie was the mastermind, not me. And if they ever make a movie about this, I hope Bradley Cooper plays me. I look like him." Seriously, he never showed remorse, never admitted guilt, not for the stalking, not for the abuse, not even for the murder plots. In his mind, he was the victim, set up by police, betrayed by the women in his life, and unfairly painted as a monster. But the truth was about to catch up with him in front of a jury. On March 20th, 2018, Leon Jacob went on trial. He was charged with 2 counts of solicitation of capital murder, one for trying to have his ex-girlfriend Megan killed, and one for Valerie's ex-husband Mac. And since Valerie was no longer alive to testify, Leon's legal team tried to paint her as the mastermind. The defense argued that Leon was just along for the ride, that Valerie had dragged him into it, not the other way around. But prosecutors came prepared. And they had two key witnesses, Megan Vericas and Mac McDaniel. Megan took the stand first. She testified to everything, how Leon had stalked her, abused her, sent her threatening messages, and even hid in the bushes outside her home. She described how he slowly broke down her life, her career, her friendships, even her confidence. How he had charmed her at first, only to turn violent and manipulative. And how, if she hadn't spoken up, she might not be alive today. She called Leon a grade-A criminal who needed control over everything and everyone around him. And it was that need for control that made him dangerous. Then came Mac, the man Leon and Valerie had plotted to kill. He told the court how he had been contacted by police, warned that his life was in danger, and agreed to fake his own death for the sting operation. When asked about his relationship with Valerie, he admitted it had been rocky, even painful. But even he couldn't believe it had come to this. When Leon took the stand, he doubled down on the lies. He claimed he never asked anyone to kill Megan or Mac. That Javier, the undercover officer, had baited him into the conversations. That he was only trying to scare Megan into dropping her charges so he wouldn't lose his medical license. But prosecutors weren't buying it. They reminded the jury that Leon never once tried to stop the fake hit. When shown photos of Megan bound and gagged, he showed no hesitation. He didn't ask, "Is she okay?" He didn't say, "Please don't hurt her." He was satisfied. And when they played back the recordings of him casually discussing how he wanted both Megan and Mac taken care of, well, there was no talking his way out of that. Then, during sentencing, the prosecution made a powerful final move. They brought in Leon's ex-wife to testify. She described years of escalating abuse, the verbal attacks, the physical violence, and one moment that would stay with the jury forever. She was pregnant with one of their sons. They were arguing. He became violent, grabbed her by the head, and smashed her face into the kitchen counter. She raised her legs to protect her stomach as he started kicking her. She said, "He told me if I ever left him, he would kill me and no one would ever find my body. That as a doctor, he had access to chemicals that would dissolve me completely." It was horrifying and completely consistent with everything Megan had said. Everything Valerie had likely lived through too. The jury didn't need long. After just over an hour of deliberation, they came back with a guilty verdict on both counts of solicitation of capital murder. Leon Jacob was sentenced to life in prison. He won't be eligible for parole until 2047, at which point he'll be nearly 70 years. So what happens now? Megan Vericas has rebuilt her life stronger than ever. In her words, "I lost everything to him, my house, my friends, my career. But now, the girl he called poor and uneducated is the reason he will never be free again." Mac McDaniel has custody of his daughter. He still grieves for the Valerie he knew, but he's moved on for her. And Leon, still in prison, still blaming everyone but himself. But there's one part of this story that doesn't get talked about much: the children. Leon's two sons, Valerie's daughters, they didn't have to stand trial. They weren't part of the assassination plot. But they're the ones who have to grow up with the consequences. Valerie's daughters will forever know that their mother fell from a 7th-floor balcony, pushed to despair by a plot that began with love and ended with betrayal. Leon's sons will grow up knowing that their father not only abused their mother, he tried to kill her. They are the silent victims of this tragedy. Innocent lives caught in a spiral of selfishness and control. So we are left with the question: was Valerie McDaniel a criminal or a manipulated woman trapped with no way out? Did she plan to kill on purpose? Or was she just another victim in Leon Jacobs' long, scandalous journey? In the end, it's up to you to decide. But one thing is clear: two people plotted a double murder, 2 lives nearly lost, and the 2 children will be scarred forever. If you found this case as shocking and heartbreaking as we did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts below. Was Valerie a victim or a villain? And what do you think drove Leon to such